Greetings! Welcome to the devlog for update 32 of hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, we have got a absolutely massive update for you. I've been working away on it all month. It encompasses an upgrade to a new version of Unity, rebuilt systems all over the place, and a whole bunch of new toys. So before we get into the sort of nitty-gritty of control changes and new systems, let's take a look at what our new toys are to play with. So we're going to start small and work our way up. The first one is a historical toy, which actually I think marks it as the oldest firearm that is currently in the game. This is the Remington rolling block handgun. These were originally sort of full-length rifles, and a bunch of them were converted for, I believe, the U.S. Navy back in like in the 1860s. It fires a 50 caliber Remington black powder cartridge. I'm going to pop that in my quick belt here. And this has its own control mapping, at least for now, just because I was playing around with it. The way this works is that we have to cock the hammer back by clicking on the touchpad and dragging downward, like that. And then click down on the touchpad and drag downward as well to open the breech, like so. We grab our round, we pop it in, we click on the touchpad and drag up to close the breech, and fire it like so. When we open the breech, cock the hammer back, open the breech, the round just pops out automatically. Also really fun if you want to go ahead and put two of them in your quick belts. Let's see, are those breeches both open? No, they're not. We can just quick load like that, close our breeches. Like so. I gotta say, I love stuff like this. I love single shot firearms just in general, because you're always doing this sort of interesting sequence of interactions, and it's always a challenge just to see how fast you can do it. So, hope you enjoy playing with those. I know I sure have. And then next up, I'd like the whole community to give a huge shout out thank you to Nicholas Heller for a long requested pair of beauties here. Yes, we finally have the Scar. We've got the Scar 16 here, and we've got the Scar 17, which we'll take a look at in a moment. Let's grab our magazine here. Bolt handles up front there. We've got sort of default irons on this that are just sort of built into the rifle. They're pretty high up, like so. And we can adjust the aperture on the rear just by clicking our trigger. And we can also fold these down, so if we don't want to shoot off of, say, irons, but want to shoot off of, I don't know, like a red dot like this, rock that over to semi. Etc. Oh, I just love it. So beautiful. Let's pull that off. Awesome. Dump that out. One thing I want to mention is that one of the control changes that was made is that all of our sort of rifles that actually have a mag release button that allow us to just drop it out with down on the touchpad now have an alternate system where you can also just grab the mag out. Also, very importantly, grabbing mags out of firearms no longer requires the touchpad click. It's just a trigger down, and I'll explain more why when I go into the locomotion changes in this update. So much fun. Boom. And remember, if you didn't catch that in the prior update, if you actually want to eject the magazine into your hand, just go ahead and hold your grab button, whatever it is. If it's Vive, it's the trigger. If it's touch, it's your grip button before ejecting the mag, and just have your hand near it, and it will eject down into your hand. And that works with any firearm. Cool, so let's pop that over there, and then take a look at the Beast, the 17. Also known as only strong shoulders need apply. got a different sort of black finish here. The stock, by the way, does collapse and expand. I know it's mainly cosmetic, but it's, you know, nice to have. Oh, helps to do that first. One's firing 7.62 by 51, a little punchier, a little harder to control on a full auto. And we've also got this X25 50 round drum for it. Awesome. Oh, actually, before we do that, let's take this opportunity to show a combo we have. To go with our Game Point red dot here, we now have a new Game Point 3X magnifier. I know a number of you have been talking about wanting to have a pair here that are perfectly sized and situated relative to each other. So we now have that. Wonderful. Great stuff. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful models. Once again, huge thank you to Nicholas. These will be well used and well loved. So, as I throw it on the table. And then one last firearms related thing that I wanted to mention, which is that a number of you pointed out that I had sort of designated this firearm as a VPR import rifle, when in reality this is an RPK. Whoops! So to help fix that problem, in addition to that nice little short mag that this came with over the Meet Miss holiday, I have sort of kit bashed together a 75 round RPK drum to go with it. And along that way, I have fixed the PK23 optic, which was far too small. Remember, we can pop the bipod out. Perfect. So enjoy that as well. Let's tear that off. There, now she's empty. And remember, just as I said with the SCAR, when we're pulling mags out, you just grab it now. Make sure you're grabbing close enough to the top. You can't do it down here. It has to be up where the magazine catch actually is, roughly speaking. So yeah. So, on to some control changes. Some of you may have noticed that I've just been sort of one-button grabbing things from across the table. And the reason I can do that now is that the touchpad menu, the terrible touchpad menu that never worked how I wanted it to, is gone. It's just, goodbye, touchpad menu, you were never good. And instead, when you have an empty hand, clicking down on the touchpad simply gives us a grab ray. So you can sort of instantaneously point at something and then just pull the trigger. Or in the case of, once again, of the if you're using touch, your grip button to pull the object into your hand. So yeah, so that makes it much more convenient to rapidly grab pairs of objects. I find it enough so that you can actually even sort of juggle with it. It's fast enough to pull up. So you might be asking, well, then how do we access all of those options that used to be on the touchpad menu? Well, there is a new type of menu called the wrist menu, and this is accessed with an empty hand by simply turning your controller upside down like so. We have a clock, we've got a set of buttons, and by simply pointing at it with your other controller, we can access it. So we can very quickly change what our locomotion mode is right here. We can spawn the options panel just like before. We can clean up our scene, which is going to actually remove all of these magazines and extra rounds. We can reload the scene just like before, or return to the main menu. So that's now accessible. It's on either hand, obviously only one of them at a time. So hopefully that should be far more convenient for you and far less likely to be accidentally triggered. So yeah, so let's see. I think we're going to go ahead and jump into a different scene for the next thing we're going to cover. So we're over actually in our old breaching prototype here, which, truthfully, until working on this update, I hadn't been in this for a while, and I'd forgotten how much I had enjoyed this environment and really need to finish it or make another version of it. But the reason we're over here is because it's a convenient place for me to show you a bunch of the other things that have changed in relationship to Locomotion, and especially the way they affect item interaction with touchpad locomotion. So I'm going to first, real quickly, I'm going to spawn myself some cartridges, mainly because I wanted to remind you that the ammo palming system is now in the game. So I'm going to empty out this magazine, like so. And let's imagine that I wanted to load myself a magazine that wasn't a tracer for every round, but was sort of hollow point tracer, hollow point tracer. This is so much easier to do now with the ammo palming system. I say start with my hollow point. Then with this held in my hand, I place it over the tracer and click down on the touchpad, which brings it into my hand. I'm going to put that in my quick belt slot, spawn lock it, then pull this out, then hover it over this and click up on the touchpad to dump them back in. I'm going to do that one more time. I've now got 8 rounds in there, and you can see when I pull them out, their order is in the order they went in. Hollow point tracer, hollow point tracer. So I can now cool, we're full. Goodbye. Put that in there, and then that's now fully loaded. I'm going to go ahead and dump that out there. So now I've got a magazine I can duplicate that has my stagger load. Going to go ahead and put this in my bottom right quick belt slot as it's my secondary. I'm going to grab my 74U here, SU. Yeah, 74U. And spawn lock that, load it up, and I'm going to use another system that is in this update that I mentioned in a past devlog, which is harnessing. We can take basically any two-handed weapon, put it in a quick belt slot, click the touchpad over that slot, and it's now harnessed, which means I can pull it out here, and if I drop it, it just snaps back to its harness, which allows me to just drop it and pull out my secondary, like so, and still have it on my chest. So we're ready to go. We're ready to shoot ourselves some hot dog standees. So how are we going to move around this environment? Now, we still have our standard sort of teleport system that we're used to, although we now have sort of bounds. I'm just clicking down the menu button and holding it for doing that. But if we want, we can just quickly come over here and switch over to our new touchpad locomotion. Now, really, really importantly with this, it works just like it did before in that we can't move quite yet. What our menu button now does is it turns on and off touchpad locomotion on that controller. I have not fixed bound it to always your left hand or something like that, just because we may want to use items in a sort of flexible way throughout an engagement, a scenario, etc. By clicking the menu button on the other controller, we steal it between the controllers like that, or turn it off. What's new about this is that when touchpad locomotion is engaged on a controller, clicking the touchpad will no longer use a touchpad action on any object held in this, which means you can now say have a handgun in each hand, moving around with touchpad locomotion, and clicking down on the touchpad won't cause you to drop the mag out of the gun. So this was more of a pain to get working than you might think. So yeah, so that's now working. This is, after much request, I heard you, very, very close to onward style, meaning that we touch the touchpad for walking speed. We click and hold it down for running speed, and you can double click it for a very short period of time for sprinting speed. Now, some other things change when we're in touchpad locomotion mode, namely that if I say grab this and pull ourselves up here, we now fall to the ground. Note, when you are not in touchpad or arm swinging locomotion mode, there is no player gravity. You will not automatically fall. This is just because of the fact that the other modes are designed for comfort, and falling can be incredibly nauseating and uncomfortable. So they are truly discreet in the way that they behave. So yeah, in addition to that, we now actually have some inertia. So I can actually grab onto this handhold and go like so, and I actually have some inertia through the air. Please note that if you strike something laterally while flying through the air, your horizontal inertia will be killed and you will fall straight down. You will not slide along the wall like Unreal Tournament style. This is far more grounded and less illustrative, befitting the subject matter and the simulation focus. So yeah, so let's grab this. So let's see what this looks like. I'm gonna hold the foregrip of this the whole time, just so you can see this in action. So we're gonna come around the corner here, advance quickly, come to the corner. Oops, that is a table in my space. I need to step backwards. Oop, we were out of ammo. We would have been dead there. Etc. But we could also say, come out here with our handholds. You do have, as the gravity affecting you is very similar to the gravity affecting objects, which means it's not 100% of what is real. It's a little low grav, which does mean you can have a firearm out in one hand and use the inertia to pull yourself up like so. Man, I just keep. There we go. Oops. Oh, did not grab the grab point. These are a little smaller. There we go. Let's see, and we can just pull ourselves into here. Perfect. Switch to the secondary. So yeah. So for those of you who enjoy the touchpad locomotion and can stomach it for long periods of time, I can do it for a little bit, but then afterwards I must say I do need to sit down. I do hope you enjoy this. Whee! Whew. Intense. So yeah, and as I mentioned before, for those of you who do want to do arm swinger, come on, this is being silly. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong button. There we go. Arm swinger. It behaves the same way from a physics standpoint. It does mean you kind of you do have to look where you're going, which makes it not perfectly ideal for tight quarters like this. But then again, the handholds are still there. There you have it. Oh, and one last thing that's really important, and this is engaged in all of the modes, and I'm going to just go ahead and go into teleport to demonstrate this, is that anything that is marked as an environment in this, I have implemented sort of progressive de-head glitching, you could say, which is if I go to press my head against this, like so, you'll notice I'm going forward in my range. It stops me. It stops me and basically pushes the rig back a proportional amount that my head went through it. So it can take a little bit of getting used to, but out of all of the options that I tried involving dealing with that, it worked the best. Whew. Alrighty, so I think that's about it for all of this. So let's go ahead and jump out of VR.
Yo! So many changes, so many things. I hope you're as excited as I am about having this all in the game. It's been it's been an exhausting, and I'll admit, a bit of a terrifying month working on all of this. This is easily the greatest number of changes that have ever occurred in the history of the game, update to update, and the volume of things I had to completely break to be able to rebuild was harrowing. So yeah, so just a couple other little things from our update notes. Let's see here. Oh, touch controller detection is now automatic. So whereas before, if you were a touch controller user, you had to dig into the options menu to set the behavior of your grab button, that's now just done automatically for you. And that's going to be the way I'm going to handle input stuff like that from now on, especially because I have to, flags have to be set all over the place for the varying behavior. You may have noticed the quick belt layout is different now. If you don't like it, don't worry. This is just temporary for this update. I was playing around with it, but didn't get time to finish my system that allows you to swap configurations. So that will be coming in the next update. And then not next update, but very soon after, I want to make basically like a little mannequin rig where you can look at the mannequin and move around the various quick belt slots and have them actually update on you. So yeah, as I mentioned, the magazine removal out of a firearm is just grabbing it now. I tweaked a few things involving interaction zone sizes on the AKM. Filtering should now be way more reliable. As part of the whole process of making the game more future-proof for other controllers and making things work better for touch, I basically rebuilt the entire input flow for the hands, and that includes filtering, i.e. basically sort of filter, removing little bits of jitter, especially when you're holding a firearm two-handed. So that should all be way more consistent, less prone to sort of single frame glitching. Added a few new edge holds to the Gunnasium scene, and I definitely recommend you give it a shot now with the touchpad locomotion, as if you have that turned on, you can fall now, so you always have to be holding onto something. It makes it a very different sort of challenge. I quite enjoy it for the amount of time that I can stomach it. Let's see here. As part of rebuilding Locomotion, this is sort of part done, part of warning. I have essentially had to touch all of the collision in all of the environments that are in the game to try to tune them, make sure things are set to the correct layers and such. I may have missed something. There are a lot of scenes in the game, so each one didn't get a ton of time. So if you find something really errant and strange, a place that you can easily fall through the world or something like that, please let me know on the Steam forum bug reports section. So I imagine this update, more than any in the past, I'm probably going to have to hotfix this a time or two this week. Rescaled the Game Point red dot sight and the PK23, as I mentioned. A number of items that are in the item spawner now have the correct sort of secondary objects in terms of what shows up as an option for them, like the various shotguns. Fix some pose override issues. Yeah, and that's been... Oh, and fix some issues that were with the two super shorties. Someone just posted to Reddit the other day that scopes were broken. It was a missing reference, and the collision is now correct on the one that doesn't have rails. So yeah, and of course just tons of other fiddly stuff. I know just from rebuilding the Locomotion system from scratch, a lot of the sort of strange behaviors that existed before are just gone now, because it is a completely different system. That was a ground up rewrite, and I quite like how it's working now. So yeah, so that is about it. Also, I know a number of you have expressed that you're like, the game's been out almost a year, it's time to get some tutorial information in there, and you're absolutely right. It is very much going to be part of mine and ours group February priorities. It's going to happen in a couple stages. We're going to put some sort of infographics into like the indoor range for the classes of firearm. And I'm going to be starting some video production so that you'll be able to, right in the item spawner, be able to see a video of how to use eventually every specific weapon, but at least for now, certain classes of firearms. So yeah, and hopefully everyone actually pays attention to the watch the devlog warning in the main menu, considering all the control changes this week. I'm sure plenty of folk won't see it, and I'll get the usual message spam of where's the touchpad menu, etc. But there's only so much you can do. Exhausted. So exhausted. So, well, I hope you all enjoy yourselves this week. Enjoy playing with our new Scar family. I'm just so happy to have them. I think I mentioned this a while back. I got to fire the Scar 16 at Battlefield Vegas, and I understand why that rifle costs what it does. The ergonomics of it felt great. I really loved though I'm sure it has some ramifications in terms of, accuracy of your optics and such because of the distance from the sort of bore axis. I really liked the sort of high dimension set on it. It was really controllable on full auto, and yeah, so it's great to finally have a virtual representation of it in the game. And in terms of next week's update, in addition to the quick belt slot modification, I'm hoping to get a test environment with that tile set that I showed y'all last week in. I didn't get it in this week. I wanted to, but my wrist issues have come back. I guess I really do need to see a doctor about this month, because I took a week off to go see my parents. Wrist problems went away because I wasn't at the computer, and just being back here for 3 days has had it come back in full force. So it's got to be more than just my ergonomics, because I'm doing this all in the correct posture and it ain't helping. So this is the money maker. Well, both of them. So I can't mess around. Anyway, I'm rambling too much because I've either had not enough or too much coffee at the moment. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this and get back to tuning this build. Let's see, it's 1 p.m. PST right now. If you're watching this, it means that the update will be posted at most an hour from your watch time. So yeah, I've gotten it stable enough, but as I said, it's so many changes. If you run into problems of any kind, please post them on the Steam community forums, bug report section. Don't spam them into YouTube comments. It's too hard for me to keep track of them. Don't even put them on the subreddit, please. Bug report section on the Steam forum. It will help me keep track of things. So yeah, peace.